Now let's talk England and something that may well get fans excited about the team's prospects at the Euros, because research in the Times today shows that an average of 39% of Premier League starters this season are eligible for England, compared with 24.5% back in December 2018. So it's quite a hike, isn't it? Gareth Southgate then would seem to have plenty of options, but only 5 games before this summer's European Championships are scheduled to begin. Well, former England striker, I'm glad to say, Alan Smith joins us now to discuss this. Very good afternoon to you, Alan. As many as 41% then of Premier League starters have been English at times this season. What is that a reflection of? A talented generation, that we're seeing more players coming through from academies than homegrown players coming through than before? A result of circumstances, or perhaps a bit of both?
Yeah, maybe a bit of both, John. There was a time when we feared for the young homegrown lads, didn't we? And we thought, is the academy system working? Is it not the right circumstances to toughen up these players for Premier League action? I think what we are experiencing here is a rich vein of talent coming through, and you'd get these cycles, don't you, when quite often they all come through at the same time, and thankfully for England, that is happening. But you look at Mason Mount. He went to Derby. He was at Derby under Frank Lampard. Maddison came through at Norwich. Emile Smith-Rowe at Arsenal. Who knows if he's going to be involved? But he had a good season at Huddersfield, went out to Germany. So they have obviously come through the academy system, but they've also been subjected to some tough football, which hardens you up and which you need. But I mean, we have got so many to choose from. We're spoilt for choice at the moment.
Yeah, we certainly are. We'll come back to Mount and Maddison very shortly. So let's just go through a little bit of what Gareth Southgate has before him. He's got, of course, that established front three of some standing: Harry Kane, Raheem Sterling and Marcus Rashford. But the noise for Phil Foden to start, well, that's pretty difficult to ignore, Alan. How does Gareth Southgate get him in, and where will he play him?
Yeah, well, this is the question. I mean, the fact that he is spoilt for choice in a way, it puts extra pressure on Gareth Southgate. I don't think there's any doubt about that. In his midfield and attacking positions, he's got so many permutations he could use. But of course, Phil Foden now is becoming a key part of Manchester City's team. He's had to be patient. We've all had to be patient because we wanted him to be promoted when David Silva left, but Pep Guardiola knows better than any of us as to when that time is right. But you would expect him to be in that City lineup more often than not from here to the end of the season. So he'll be definitely ready in terms of his match practice, his subjection to the top flight. It's whether he does find a place in that starting 11. I mean, if you're going to play him, I don't see him replacing either Sterling or Rashford at the moment. But listen, when it comes to tournaments, we've seen it so often. Players are injured, they're out of form, and sometimes the manager's decision is made for him. And you need choices for that to be a successful choice. Thankfully, we've got them.
Yeah, certainly have. And let's talk about someone like Jadon Sancho there. Where would he fit in, do you think?
Well, again, he'd be in the squad. I would see him as a substitute option, somebody that can come on and change the pattern of a game. I believe he's picked up again at Dortmund. He had a bit of a lull, I think, which young players do tend to get. He started so quickly out in Germany, and you know, that experience in the Bundesliga will serve him very well. And he's done well for England. He's looked a confident figure. He wants the ball, takes responsibility. So, again, he's a great choice. And in tournament football against mass defences, if you got somebody like him that can take on a player, beat his man, set up a chance, maybe get a goal. I mean, it's such a great weapon to have. So, again, something for Southgate to ponder.
Yeah, it's mouth-watering stuff, isn't it? Well, let's look at you mentioned a couple of these already, Alan. Mason Mount, Jack Grealish, James Maddison. Now, does Southgate, do you think, need to consider changing his midfield preference for 2 holding players in order to incorporate those players?
Yeah, well, I mean, the shape of Gareth's team is another matter, isn't it? Does he play 5 at the back? And if he does, you're thinking, well, Henderson and Declan Rice, perhaps, which hasn't always given us that impetus on the front foot. I'd probably go for a back 4 if he can get a partner for Harry Maguire, but that's a big if at the moment. I mean, you'd put Henderson in there. I'd like to see Mason Mount get a shout. And I mean, he's so versatile. He's done so well for club and country. The consistency of the lad has been frightening, really. More often than not, he's been Chelsea's best player. And quite often England's standout performer as well. And Southgate likes him, loves him, I think. And why wouldn't you? The talent that he's got, he seems to be improving all the time. So I'd certainly like to find a place for him in a midfield 3. However that's made up, whether it's Henderson, Rice and Mount or something slightly different. But I think Mount certainly should be in there.
And Al, we've seen, I suppose, a trend, you could call it, of managers, including Southgate, who haven't been afraid to just throw young players into the mix and see how they go. Now, you were calling for Emil Rose-Smith to get his chance in the Arsenal team before the Chelsea game. Now, look how he's taken that opportunity. Does it show that there is more of a penchant for allowing young players to just give it a go, and also penchant, or the ability that there is as well at lots of different clubs?
Yeah, I mean, whether Smith Rowe's got a shout for the Euros is another matter. I don't know. As we've said, he's got a lot of competition there. But you never know with young players until you actually throw them in at the deep end. And Arteta at Arsenal came to a position where he thought, well, I need to change something up here and we need some creativity. And Smith Rowe has just taken it like a duck to water. So he's a great talent. He really is. Somebody that can see the pass, can move the ball really quickly. And that's great to see, the fact that we are producing these kind of technically adept players. A few years back, we used to look at some other countries and be envious of that kind of ability. But we've got plenty of it now.
Yeah, absolutely right. Now, I just want to ask you about how you manage the fixtures that are forthcoming. England have 3 World Cup qualifiers in March. 2 of those are against Albania, San Marino. Now, does Southgate need to experiment here, or would you give the likes of Callum Hudson-Odoi, James Justin, Bukayo Saka and Mason Greenwood tournament experience at the Euro under-21 group stages, because they're being held at the same time?
Yeah, I mean, that is an lasting problem, really, is it? I remember Stuart Pearce with the under-21s advocating for some of these fringe players to experience tournament football, which can help you a great deal. So often in England, once we've got to the seniors, we don't drop back down again, whereas in other countries they do drop back down. I mean, I think it's a bit of mix and match. Maybe somebody like Hudson-Odoi would go with the under-21s. Bukayo Saka, I think, would be with the seniors, because he's such a talent, a natural one that can certainly make a mark at international level, on the senior level. So, yeah, again, something for Southgate to try and balance. It's a nice problem to have, but some of those lads on the fringes that maybe if they propelled into the Euros without too much tournament experience at international level, when maybe that'll be a little too much too soon.
I want to ask you about John Stones and Luke Shaw, Alan. Time for recalls for those 2 in March?
Well, I still think there's a space available at centre-half. I mean, Southgate has gone back to a back 3 of late. And it's been a bit of a mix and match, hasn't there? With Keane and Dyer and Tyrone Mings. But Stones has got that, you know, he played in the last World Cup, played really well, scored a goal or 2. And the form is in. Yeah, I think you've got to bring him back into the fold. And perhaps, I'm sure Southgate would be quite interested maybe to pair him with Maguire and see the dynamics of that, see whether it's a nice balance, a nice mix, because then that would give him an option of a 4, which at the moment I don't think he's quite sure about.